Hi guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press, where I review indie sci-fi and fantasy books. Today we're continuing our Discord community book club. We're reading through Silence and Starsong, Volume 1, Number 1, compiled by Joseph W. Knowles. And today we'll be discussing the second short story, A Wanderer of by Gaston Nerval. Gaston, probably. I don't know. How do you would you pronounce that French, like French way, or just
I would, because no one can shoot like Gaston. No one can fight like Gaston.
that was my initial like that's how I, but then it didn't come out of my mouth that way. So I apologize to the author for my this is par for the course, guys. I'm sorry. I just mangle names. If you guys are interested in joining my Discord and participating in this discussion in the future, you can reach out to me either through the Periapsis Press website contact form or on Twitter at Red Hedge Dragon. With me today are a couple of members from my Discord. Uh, you might recognize their names if you come to my live streams. uh, First, I have Patrick again from Cave to the Cross. And also with me is Michael Kane, the author of the sci-fi Western series After Moses, which you can see behind him. Do you guys?
Except for the last one.
Right, that one's still upcoming.
Still being written.
Would you guys like to say anything to introduce yourselves, or?
After Moses is a great series. I bought all the rest of the books when I got to chapter, I believe 7, and I was like, I'm all in on this story. So I would highly recommend purchasing just all the hardcovers of After Moses.
Exactly what he said.
They're very nice hardcovers.
Oh, they're great. They'll fit on your shelf. The text type is the same. You won't misplace the 3 just up a little bit. It'll drive you nuts.
They're not slightly different shades of color.
Not yet, at least.
Right. Oh goodness.
Still need to wait for the last one.
So
don't worry, I have that cover already. It fits in.
Oh, good. I think I've talked about this on stream before. The latest series from Naomi Novik, I absolutely loved the first 2 books, and they were gold in color on the spines. And then the third one came out, and it was black with gold lettering. And I was like, "What are you doing? It looks ridiculous." And then the story was awful too. So I was like, "Ha! Judged by the cover accurately again."
There are some graphic novels where they're now selling alternate spines and cover sleeves, so they'll all fit. I'm just like, I feel like this is like the hand of the mouse reaching in and just doing more damage to its intellectual property.
I've resigned myself to just buying every cover of Lord of the Rings that I come across in stores, and then I'll just have them.
There's a whole shelf up here of War of the Worlds. That's just for fun.
Very nice.
Yeah. I have 3 or 4 Lord of the Rings, and I think I need to limit it to that. I had to get that big all-in-one hardback that had Tolkien's illustrations that came out a year or 2 ago.
Nice.
And hopefully I'm good after that one.
So that is the one thing that I don't do is all in one. It's just too big.
I just wanted all of Tolkien's illustrations in the same volume with it. It's a really nice volume.
Nice.
Now, if they could just make one where you could sing the songs for us people that have no musical talent. I get to those and I'm hoping they'll rhyme, and I hope I can just get into a loop of talking in rhythmic form of some variety, and I'm not scarring my children as they're listening to me.
There's this if you like Tolkien music, there's this YouTube group. It's this Irish family, Clamavi de Profundis or whatever.
I've heard of them.
Yes, they do. They've done a version of most of the major Tolkien poems through Lord of the Rings, as well as they're Catholics, as well as some like traditional Gregorian Catholic stuff
Okay.
too. It's fabulous. I mean, some of them aren't as great, but there's some of them that are just really good.
All right.
But yeah, definitely recommend them for that. We should probably get going.
We could spend an hour talking about Tolkien.
I didn't bring it up this time. I didn't.
That's true. That was my fault. Okay. Second story in this is A Wanderer of Ur. And to begin, we actually spend several paragraphs in the setting, which is really nice, I think. So it's in a sort of like mythologized pre-Abraham Genesis era Mesopotamia, if I am reading that correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by mythologized, I mean that there's like fantastical beasts and demigods, though we don't call them that because technically they're the offspring of angels / demons / supernaturally heaven creatures. And there's also just a general sort of state of lawlessness that contributes to just a very, very strong feeling of adventure potential. I thought it was interesting and intriguing. It's certainly an interesting way to start a short story where setting tends to be a little thinner on the ground. Did you guys have any?
Yeah. So I definitely agree. The setting, and the prose, I think, were definitely the strong suits. The author did a really good job of making it feel very long ago in this barbarian age that just is barely connected to our world. Right? It's you don't see a lot of people writing, I'm going to say, a fantasy story, although it's set in a biblical era. It's kind of fantastical. You don't see a lot of people writing fantasy stories right before and after the flood, which is an interesting setting to do. If you just say, boom, let's just take the Bible, we're just going to write it straight out and treat that as the setting. And I know there's some out there, but it had a very, it had a Gilgamesh quality to it.
Sure.
This ancient barbarian warlords and monsters and walled city states. Good setting. The prose did a good job of being a bit archaic to help set that up and sell that this is old.
Yeah. I don't even I don't pronounce words that I don't know.
like the very first sentence. In those days, the earth was wild.
Sure, yeah.
The very first sentence is built in this inverted structure, which, most of the time, if you do something like that, people are going to feel you're trying too hard. But this was very appropriate for the setting and the story being told. So that was definitely one of the strong suits. And like I said, it starts out really just setting up the like I said, this mythological barbarian realm.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Like, is it pronounced Anagar? Is that
yeah, so I had to look that
is
up.
that like a donkey creature?
Yeah, no, so I would have said onager.
Onager, sure.
Because there's this Roman era catapult, which, nerds that have played, enough strategy games and things will know what an onager is. And I looked it up and it's spelled the same way, but you're right, it is basically a donkey.
Okay,
of some
that's
sort.
what I thought it was. But he doesn't use the word donkey.
And
like
an Asian wild ass is what Google says.
I think he used wild ass at one point early in the story, which was probably why I made that association and just like hoped for the best. That was like the same type of thing. But
well, I read it at first because like I said, I know the word is like a a catapult, heavy catapult. And I was like, wait, this can't be right. There's a different definition here.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, kind of being the place where Abram comes out of, is called out of. It's you know, kind of modern day Turkey-ish. It's still in that Levantian era area, a little bit more north and
North.
east than that. But still, that setting. There's a couple books that I like. The Remnant trilogy, which is kind of like the story of Noah told in 3 parts, but utilizing kind of that pre-flood time period, before the world changes. And I think there's a lot to do there. The Fall of Man series by Brennan McPherson. I've read some of that series. So I really always have liked the setting. In fact, a friend of mine and I have always talked about wanting to do a series where, you know, you have Stargate type technology and it's just all there, and we just don't worry about how much gold is left on the earth after you mine everything. But that pre-flood myth era, there's so much to do there. You know, you could get into the cryptids, which is always fun category, and here it's definitely pulling from that kind of dark period of unknowing of what happened kind of between chapter 3 and, you know, chapter 6.5 of Genesis. That's always fun. You can throw some giants in there too.
Yeah, it does a nice job of making it feel not just like a generic Bible times land, you know.
Yeah, old fill in the blank.
Right.
Not flannel graph Bible story.
Right. Exactly.
Gee, Davey, are we gonna slay any Nephilim today?
So in this setting, we have our main character Thark, who's like a Conan the Barbarian style warrior.
Yeah. So, and I wonder if it's a nice little throwback, because in the Barsoom collection for John Carter, it's a species in there that are kind of like warriors, but also like uh, kind of poetical or noble people, and so they have this juxtaposition in there. So I wonder if it's a callback to a John Carter species.
Nice.
Yeah.
It sounded vaguely familiar, and now
I'd
that
forgotten that, but I just assumed that Thark is a good name for kind of a barbarian caravan guard.
It sounds what happens when you like
you're not going to
club
have
somebody.
Thark the philosopher.
Yeah.
Stereotyping much.
It's fiction. There's no accidents.
He's not particularly, I guess, like worthy character. Like as far as like heroic virtues. He's kind of self-satisfied and vain, which was pretty interesting to me. Kind of fits with my general understanding of the barbarian character, though, so it didn't seem too out of place.
Yeah, he's not cursing Crom
Right.
and all magic everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And we join him as he enters and we kind of get a brief look at him. He buys himself jewelry, basically rings, for every creature that he's killed. From like, I can't remember what the first one is. The silver ones,
it's lions, I think.
Lions.
Bronze. Yeah, it was for lions.
Silver for men.
For men.
And and gold for the other stuff. Like,
victories over other less discernible things.
Go back. Go to those. Let's hear about those.
And he only wears them in town where people can see them. Right. And then he also we learn he's not like a religious practitioner. Like I don't want to say he's not religious because he clearly thinks that there are gods of some kind, a supernatural world of some kind. But he doesn't go to temples, he doesn't make sacrifices. And that is when a strange priest calls out to him. And we get this is a priest of an unknown god or unnamed god. And the pitfall of Christian fiction everywhere, God is character. This priest offers to make him the father of many nations if he will go and kill a witch. I have thoughts on this. I'm interested to hear your guys's.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, it's fiction. It's fun, right? It's playing this what if, that there was this. What if there was someone else that God might have allowed to be Abraham, but sets up, here's what you do, and it's obviously he fails because there actually was an Abraham that comes after this. But that it's fun. It's interesting. It's fun to think about. But I like some of the ways that the author tries to work this in and not step on the toes of the biblical narrative, and also kind of intersect with it a little bit, and even pre in the end prefiguring salvation a little bit. So there's definitely some interesting things to go in here. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I think that this could have happened or anything like that, but
my Calvinist whiskers were bristling at this.
Sure.
And knowing the background of the author, I know that he did not care whatsoever for my bristling. But so I viewed this in the same line as like, well, Ishmael was also kind of part of the promise, but also it's not like I had a lovely Bible teacher one time that explained that Satan was trying to kill Cain, the son of promise, and so it just jumped to Seth. And I was like, well, no, not really, not if you think God is who he is. But regardless of the fact that great Bible teacher, regardless of that. But there were people that came out of Ishmael and went to war with the children of his brother. So that came about and was known and became, plenty in descendants. So I just viewed this as kind of another one of maybe other races or other men of valor that or unvalor, if you want to take them that way too. That could be a possibility, or set up, things like the creatures that go bump in the night, and you have these kind of half men, half demigod quality people.
It seemed really simplistic to me. Compared with the covenant that he makes with Abraham. It felt more like a deal than a like a formal you will be my people and I will be your God, type of thing.
Yeah, it's one of the kind of like a clear covenant, right? So it's an agreement between two parties, and then like a sacrifice is performed to show that, and it's split, and the people walk through it. But with Abraham, he's put to sleep, and God's the one that makes the covenant from both sides, which is the amazing part of the story, because no matter how hard you fail humanity, God's going to be on both sides of that equation. So you do what you need to do, but ultimately God's going to do what he's going to do. So, but this one is more of a clear cut. You do this, I will do this, equals many nations.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, as it turns out, he was always going to fail sort of thing, right? There's no question that this guy, right? Well, this guy was always going to fail, and always going to lead to this other conclusion.
Yeah, so spoilers. If you came here expecting not to have spoilers, I don't know what to tell you, but I am telling you.
We warned you last time.
Right now. So
it's not the kind of story that's harmed by spoilers.
Right.
This is more of an experience story.
He meets the witch. She actually saves his life. And she is beautiful, but also she's got weird eyes and
never trust witchy people.
Claws.
Who are beautiful. Nope.
The claws are a giveaway.
She takes him home and they sleep together. I think I'm reading that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if she hadn't tried to kill him, he would have completed the task? Would he have killed her? I was very confused because she does try to kill him.
Okay. Right. He wakes up and she's trying to kill him right then. Right. And so you're saying
why is that important that she do that?
Well, one, she mangles his ability to reproduce.
She rips his balls off, you guys.
And that's part of, the curse that he carries afterwards, is that part of this promise was if he obeyed and did what he was supposed to, he would become this father of nations. And part of the curse for disobeying was that now he'll never father anyone. And so that's why the temptation to fail was also in the course of this story directly related to the promise. So that the failure becomes part of the curse, and the removal of what God had promised to him if he had upheld his end of, as you said, it's just like a one-to-one bargain in this case.
So you would say that his failure was like not killing her straight off?
Correct.
Because then he kills her in self-defense, and technically the task is completed. But like
right, but that the way the priest, when he gets back to the priest asks, "Is that all you did?" He comes back and says, "I killed her," and the priest says, "Is that all you did?" He's like, "No."
Yeah, but like.
Which we do see again, time and time again throughout the Bible, under the Abrahamic covenant. You have Saul, and he's like, well, "Yeah, but I want to save this guy and parade him around and show my spoils." And the priests are like, "Well, did you kill everybody?" Well, yeah.
It's a case of, you knew what I meant and you didn't do it. You were not supposed to have relations with the witch. You knew that. That was clear from context.
Okay, so you guys you're taking a much harder line on that than I did. I was like, but did he? Right? Like, did he killed her? And we're talking like pre-law. Like, it was a very, very simple, you do this and I do this, and there wasn't really any morality attached. The setup includes something along the lines of like, kings just started making laws for the first time, right? Like, it just seemed like, was this guy just supposed to know that he wasn't supposed to do that? Like,
I mean, generally, if your contract is to kill somebody, sleeping with them is usually
counterproductive.
Kind of assumed to be outside the realm of contract.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. We just need to turn to the book of Judges for all that stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and maybe this guy was going to be why are you picking this dude Abram when you have this guy named, Thwack? And, he's the one that slays the deadly beast, and he's the one that, has the ability to be the father of many nations. So maybe this was God's plan all along, for taking him out of the equation. To almost skip to the last page, then, what ultimately is the plan? So again, we're spoiling this, but you have him being told like, we shall meet again and you shall live forever type deal. Well, are we supposed to know people within history? Is this Methuselah? Is this then, the guard that stabs Jesus in the side? Is this, Goring, or, pick your person throughout history that we're supposed to equate to? Or is this some, I didn't see the connection with the ultimate ending there of, well, we shall meet again, young Padawan, and we shall have many adventures. Okay, but is this just a one story that I'm supposed to think? And I'm waiting for him to sit on his crown of skulls with a heavy crown upon his scowl, or am I
I
supposed
mean,
to
I
like
kind of took
wait?
I kind of interpreted it that this was Thark's humbling, and that in some fashion he's going to become a student of this priest,
Mm.
and ultimately find humbling and redemption, and and knowledge of God, but not in any way that he carries on any formal promise going forward, but that rather this Thark ends up being a single faithful man under a priest in outside of the biblical narrative, lost to time sort of situation. And he says, you will live to see the nation whose father you might have been, but do not despair, for I am a God of mercy, and you will know that even you will be saved through it. So there's like I said, that promise to Thark, and the assumption, therefore, that we have that, okay, Thark is going to be humbled and redeemed through this misadventure, where he was sent off to the seductress.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that assessment. Um, I think it's kind of interesting that like he's supposed to get two curses. One is like you can't have kids, but it's like that's basically already happened to him, right? And the other is like also the promise that because you failed, you don't get that, and you get to see someone else get that promise. But also, that's not really a curse because you're going to be redeemed through it. So it was like he didn't
Right.
get any curses. I think that as far as the redemption part of it, it seems like there's something hinted there. I don't know necessarily if I had
It's outside the scope of this little story.
right. Yeah.
It's just you know, I think I read your review, Patrick, on Amazon, and I remember you commented on this one that this was just one that was just a little too short for your taste.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's very much just this little snapshot. And I think, what is it, like, I don't know, it's like 8 pages on my on
Mhm.
my phone, and I could have used a couple more, to flesh things out some. But yeah, it's just this one little snapshot, and then this hint of this promise to come, and then it ends. I think that the story ultimately functions exactly as it intends, as the author intended, and extending it and showing more would have simply been more in a different story. Uh,
Sure.
Maybe. But I mean, the redemption part of this is kind of the easy part. To
sure.
harken back to our we will redeem sci-fi quote in the back of the book. Um, but it would have been nice to kind of tie it in. It's not just the Jesus answer, which is always a good answer to me. Far be it from
Hmm.
me
Hmm.
to say that Jesus is never the answer. But also, it would be nice to kind of hang a hat on, maybe foreshadowing, or have us guessing of, you know oh, I want you to watch over this shepherd boy, who's slinging rocks at lions, and make sure the lions stay down. It'd be nice to kind of like, okay, then you're tying him in with more more the protectorate level within the scope of scripture. And you're like, oh, I wonder where else he's at, where else in the story of scripture we could see at. And hey, there's going to be these Maccabeans. Hey, we can bring the Catholics in and talk about the Maccabeans as well.
Was your assessment that he was going to be present over the course of the biblical story?
And so that's where I needed just a little bit more in the weird old priest's words. Is just it's just like again, to harken back to Conan, I don't need to see him getting his throne on skulls, and why is he so worried when he has it all? But it's nice to think like, oh, at the very end of this, like he goes through all these adventures and he's still unhappy, and so there's a thread that I'm trying to say, okay, he defeats the priest of Crom here, but he's still not. It doesn't do anything for him fully in the future. So where else can I see that? So I just would have liked a little bit more of a breadcrumb trail through that, rather than just we'll meet again and throw the smoke bomb and where'd Batman go type deal.
That's interesting. Okay, when the first time you were talking, I didn't understand what you were saying. Now I think I do.
It happens a lot.
So. That is interesting. I hadn't considered that. That would.
I don't have that particular need. I think it functions as it is. It's never going to be my favorite sort of thing. It's the kind of story that's well, that was interesting. And you enjoy the setting, you enjoy some of the prose. Because like I said, I think the prose was very good. I think the prose was exactly what it needed to be. And then it gets in, makes its little points, and then gets out. And sometimes that's what a short story needs to do without, becoming the MCU.
I think for me, I think it was a nice little story. I think the deal and the outcome didn't quite land for me. But otherwise, I think you guys know I like redemption at the end. So the idea that is ultimately coming for him, even if it's not in this exact moment, that was satisfying.
So is it harder to enjoy and accept because it does run up against biblical narrative? Does that make it more difficult for either of you?
I think probably for me it does. I think as soon as you start including God as a character who, even if he's talking through a priest, right? Like someone who is acting in a very overt way, especially if there's tiebacks to biblical stuff. If it doesn't land quite right for me, it feels like a character break, if that makes sense. It's like it would be like if you took any character that you understand outside of the story, like just like something generic like Robin Hood, right? And then had him do something that just didn't seem to line up with what you knew about Robin Hood, right? So in that way, that's sort of it sort of puts me on my toes as far as like
one thing that helped because I absolutely agree with that generally, and that's why I asked that question. One thing that did help for me was adding the mediator to keep God from being a direct character in the story.
Sure.
Having this priest that has very little page time, speaks very little, speaks very highly of God. It's just that step of removal helps a lot for me in that case.
Sure.
Because it's we could talk about the pitfalls of Christian fiction all day long, and I know you've mentioned it. God as character is always dicey. Even the best examples, we could pick apart Aslan if we needed to. The three of us could find cases where it's like, oh, why'd you do that, Aslan? That's not quite because
Right.
that's how it is. That's what it's like trying to put words in God's mouth.
Right.
So that's
Aslan
obviously
is
always dicey.
Jesus. I've never heard this
So that extra step helped a lot for me, and just the mythologizing tone of the story that's almost was like a story that was passed down,
Sure.
sort of thing. And so you even are questioning, is this even a reliable story at all? Are we even hearing this from a reliable narrator, or is this an account that's 400 years later and had half a dozen changes to it? Is this even an accurate story?
Right. Yeah.
So just that tone helped create that buffer to separate it a little bit for me anyway.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm still reading that same way, going, where are you going with
Right,
this?
right.
Where are you
Like,
going with this? Don't take it off a cliff. I'm like, okay, you didn't take it off a cliff. He didn't take it off a cliff as far as I was
Yeah.
concerned. It's
True,
again,
true.
it's not like my favorite kind of thing, because it's we all know what we're talking about here. But
If it was more overt, though, in the sense of like a story handed down, which I didn't view it as that, but I think I might have liked that better, because then I could tie it in with like all the different flood myths throughout, all of the things, and
well, the
we don't have to.
reason that I I mean, I didn't really even think about that until now, because to me it was just kind of the whole tone of it. When you start, in those days the earth was wild, man removed only a few generations, is clearly this separate narrator. And so when you have someone telling this story, I don't know, like I said, just with the mythical tone, made it feel a little more, even further removed. So take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's remotely what the author intended.
Well,
but I'm just saying that those things helped
yeah.
Add that buffer for me a little bit.
Yeah, with that kind of tone and with the shorter length of the story, it also made it easy to go along with a character like Thark, who, for me anyway, like, I know a lot of people like barbarian warriors. I am not a fan of that kind of a person.
I'm not really either.
So the sort of self vanity.
The pulp guys are all crying out in horror right now. They heard you and are crying out in horror.
They can feel me through the force, killing their favorite myth trope. So I would say that, yeah, like you've been saying, the tone and the writing style are just perfect for this. They do a lot of covering over of wrongs, not wrongs, but you know what I mean. Like,
it helps smooth potential pitfalls.
Yes. Thank you. So yeah, I think that based on like our discussion and how I felt about it when I was reading, I think that I probably would recommend this story. What about you guys?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's so short. It's so short. It takes very little time to read, and it's a good little conversation piece.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not like you're really losing anything. You read some good prose. You have well, what does that mean? And you can think about it and talk about it and be done with it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
it's a short story. It's a very short story.
Mm-hmm.
6.5 or 7 out of 10. I don't know. For what it is, it does what it's supposed to do. That's kind of how I'm judging it. Is it's not trying to be this grand or philosophical or deep thing. It gets in and does what it's supposed to do and gets out, without managing to be offensive, and has be kind of pretty in the prose in some places. So that's what I'll say.
Said like an author. Ugh.
The word. One of the things about being an author is everybody's prose looks better than your own. You're like, oh man, I wish I could talk like that. Oh, that was a good sentence.
Well, as a reader who's never created anything, I don't think I would recommend it because and I don't view this as bad or worthless at all. But I needed more from this. Again, I'm never going to strike down novellas or short stories for being short, but it has not grabbed me out of the collection of stories here. But it's not one that I would put back on the shelf. I'm glad I read it. I like the setting. I think it does a lot up to the point where pretty much the main story kind of kicks off. I would have just liked kind of a little bit more either on building up the character. So maybe like instead of telling me about his gold rings and his beard, he shows me just kind of one to show me kind of the scope of his awesomeness, and then maybe this one, or again to tie it in something more with the priest character of periods of history, or just kind of a little bit more in there.
If there was a little bit more, I think you're right. I would have liked it more up front, like on the front end more than on the back end for me personally. But yeah, I could have happily seen another page or two up there. Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen up close and personal a fantastical creature like a manticore. I think he briefly mentions that his shield is covered in unicorn hide. Like, yeah, that's a really cool detail, but like, where'd he get it?
I mean, who hasn't killed a rhinoceros in their day? I'm just saying.
That would seeing a little bit more hands-on some of that.
If he would have slayed a Mothman, I would A+. This is my favorite story. Of course, if you pretty much put Mothman in anything, I'll pick it up too.
Mothman wasn't in the Bible.
That's right, because Drac here took him out. That's why he went to Point Pleasant to get away from him.
Do you guys have any concluding thoughts?
Still a great series. The next one, oh my goodness, pick up this book for this next story. Oh my goodness.
I read it. It was great, and I have no idea what happened. Like, I legitimately have no idea what I read.
I'm really looking forward to this.
It is the trippiest thing.
We're just going to read it word for word here on the show. It's going to be over.
Okay, here's this sentence.
Wildest
what
collection of ideas.
All right. Well, we will look forward to that. Again, if you guys are interested in joining us, you can reach out to me. And then you can participate with us and talk about the stories as we come to them. Otherwise, we encourage you to buy Silence and Starsong magazine. They are currently doing a crowdfunding campaign for Volume 2. I'll put the link in the description. It's definitely in the description of the first one, if I forgot about this one.
And they do have two other ones within this
volume, I think so, yeah. Is it two?
Two more, yeah.
There's three. There's 3 books in the volume. Yeah,
right. 3 total. 2 more. Yeah.
Aren't there usually 4 in a magazine volume? Or am I just making that up? I don't know. Okay.
I think you're normally.
We're gonna redeem. We're gonna redeem the volume. Okay. We're redeeming it with Trinities.
Like, changes anything. It just. Okay. And. What was I going to say, you guys? I haven't read anything else by Gaston Nerval. But if this sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to check his stuff out as well. I think he has a novella and then some other short stories in different anthologies. Thank you, Patrick and Michael, for joining me. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody at home. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you for sticking it out with us. All right. Any parting shots? You guys want to shill your stuff?
Patrick already did it for me, so
it's true.
Absolutely. And while at the same time, while reading After Moses, you can head over to caveofthecross.com and read some books with us that are mythological, but in the meta sense. And so you can walk through some theology books with us and go right to the middle of the page. All the books we've ever done, you click on the book, and then you actually have to start at the first page and then work your way back to the most recent episode. You can just follow along with us in that book. You don't even need it. We kind of break it down so you don't need the book, but also get those books because they're some of the best ones out there.
All right. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you.